Hi, and welcome to the January 2026 installment of Microsoft Product Licensing Terms from the version 1 Software Asset Management team. How's everybody doing today?
Good, thanks, Carl.
Yep,
Yeah,
good.
good.
Right, so a finicky month of updates, I would say. Some subtle changes, not too many large or material updates, but still for January, there's some interesting observations out there in this month's product terms. Neve, do you want to go tell us what you found? Anything interesting on your side?
Yeah, sure. So, the first one, well, the one that caught my eye was that Microsoft has included Security Pilot as part of Microsoft 365 E5 licensed customers. Now, just for so they started this last November, and we're kind of rolling out to customers that didn't already have kind of Security Copilot. But one of the interesting things to note is that for anybody that doesn't have Security Copilot and does have E5, is that Security Copilot was never a per user license. So it's based on computing SKUs or compute units. So essentially what they're saying is that, if you have 1,000 kind of licenses, that you'll get like 400 SCUs or computing units with that. Now you don't have to have 1,000 users, you can have less than that and you'll have the equivalent kind of rate of compute units. So essentially, like, if that's something that is of interest to you, then it's good that you have some capacity to go and work with Security Pilot within your organization if you're an E5 licensee today. So if you're not an E5 licensee, the same still applies. You still have to purchase it on a capacity basis, either pay as you go or overage, whatever. So that was that one. Aside from the product terms, I did see that there is an updated Visual Studio licensing guide, and it's interesting to see that a lot of the guides seem to be going by the way of kind of a web page as opposed to the PDFs that we used to be used to all along. And I guess from a user point of view, it probably is easier to navigate with the web. And there's very little that's kind of new. Still the same kind of rules apply as regarding non-usage in kind of production environments and definitions of that, and same with kind of the community edition as well. Clarification and scenarios and examples of where community edition is not permitted. And really, because I suppose Visual Studio, there is quite a lot in that guide between, I suppose, whether it's annual subscriptions and the difference between that and the monthly subscriptions that you get through your marketplace, and the various kind of use rights and what's included with those. It's well worth going onto the guide to see what specifically may or may not impact you from a licensing point of view. So that's it from me this month.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, that's interesting, the move to web-based briefs as opposed to PDFs. Probably a top tip there is to convert the web pages into PDFs, so you're keeping a catalog of those older product briefings, like we've seen in the past sometimes, where those briefing documents have contradicted the product terms and vice versa. So no harm in having a record of those over time, just in case you inadvertently breach the rules and you are audited by Microsoft. At least you can point to something that says the brief said this at the time. Obviously everything gets overruled by the product terms, but still useful information to have at the same time. Great stuff. Dan, anything interesting from your side?
Yeah, one small thing, nothing too major. They basically added to the audio services terms. They've made a couple of changes in the language just to clarify. So for using like Teams Phone and other sort of audio calling services that they manage, they're basically just putting the onus and showing that the telecoms providers are basically the owners and responsible for the management of the numbers assigned. So that was really just the small clarification there, basically pushing the onus onto the the telecoms provider, rather than Microsoft themselves actually being responsible for the phone numbers.
Great stuff. William, do you want to go next, or do you want me
Sure.
to go next?
Yeah, no, I'll go next. So just a brief one on, again, Microsoft Defender Expert Suite. So this is an update really to support the launch of Microsoft Defender Expert Suite. And that's added it to the availability table, the license prerequisite table. And also there's, even though it's new, there's a minimum purchasing requirement as well. So it comes in 2 suites, Plan 1 and Plan 2. Plan 1 includes Defender for Experts for XDR, which is an existing product, also includes incident response, and then Plan 2 includes both those, as well as the, I suppose, access into Microsoft, which is the enhanced designated engineering, which is access into their sort of SOC and threat protection help desk, as well as the unified enterprise sort of 24/7 support, advisory and training entitlement as well. Now the prerequisites are Microsoft 365 E5, the Defender Suite, or Defender and Purview Suite for frontline workers. So essentially it's for the higher end enterprise level type customers, but there is also a 66% discount promotion available until the end of 2026 for qualifying customers. 66% discount on a pricing structure that hasn't actually yet been released. So yeah, so work that one out. And also the second more interesting one for I suppose CSP customers, so that's the lower non-enterprise agreement customers, is price harmonization, and that there's a 7% decrease for the Eurozone customers, only Eurozone, not UK, and that includes Microsoft 365, Dynamics 365, Power Platform, all the end users type subscriptions, and that's from the 1st of Feb, so automatically a 7% decrease in the price that customers are currently paying will apply. So that's good news, something back from Microsoft, which is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. There hasn't been too many price decreases in the last number of years. So.
No, and that's on the back of 1st of July, the prices going up. So yeah, take with one, give with the other.
Move geographies.
Yeah.
Country.
Very good. So I looked at all things AI and Azure related this month. So this I said at the top of the recording that there's a few finicky updates this month. So really having to get into the weeds of Microsoft's product terms to look at what some of these changes were. They're quite subtle in some cases. So my key observation is that Microsoft, they've updated the AI product terms, as we see every month now. We see changes to their product terms around AI. And I would say, while the documentation associated with these changes is quite long, the messages behind it are relatively simple. So in plain English, I'll go through what I've found, and hopefully I can make sense of it all. As always, as we say, the supporting written blog with this will cover this in a little bit more detail. So first up, Microsoft shifting the branding and structure around its AI platform. So what used to be called Azure AI Foundry is now being positioned as Microsoft Foundry. So in other words, Foundry is becoming the main front door for AI, with Azure services running through it instead of standing on their own. Second is, if you use Bing search to ground your AI models, Microsoft is now treating that as a core Microsoft service. So that means it's governed, should I say, by Bing's own enterprise terms, not just the AI ones. The third observation was Microsoft has drawn a much clearer line between its own models and everyone else's. So most third-party models now are officially classed as non-Microsoft products, except for a special group that Microsoft called Azure Direct models. And those Azure Direct models now come with much tighter rules. So Microsoft can limit access to certain models, temporarily store prompts and outputs, and review them if there's concerns about misuse. They've also added specific vendor rules for popular models for companies like Meta, xAI, DeepSeek, Mistral, OpenAI, and Alibaba instead of one generic license, which is quite interesting. And then the final observation was just around some of the more sensitive AI features. So things like custom voice, facial recognition, speaker recognition, and avatars. They're now being treated as limited access services. So you have to apply before using them. And if you use synthetic voice or AI translators, you now need to clearly tell users. So this is the big takeaway from those subtle updates. I think it's pretty clear that Microsoft is starting to tighten the control and increase transparency and putting, I guess you could say, stronger guardrails around how AI is used across its platform. So as I said, a lot of this stuff is buried in the weeds. We'll go into a little bit more detail on the blog itself, but as always, every month brings some subtle changes to Microsoft's AI terms, as it's, I guess, just such the constant evolving nature of the product set. So that about wraps things up for this month's Microsoft Product Licensing Terms update. As always, if you have any specific queries off the back of today's session, please feel free to reach out to us, or if you've had any Microsoft or any other software vendor licensing related queries, do reach out to the software asset management team here at Version 1. We would be delighted to help you. So until next month's product terms update, Dan, Niamh, William, thanks again for your input, and chat soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.